So it's not any faster on this computer. It might be a little faster on this different computer.
Oh, I just got a notification.
Yay, that means that, yeah, that we're live.
I think so. That's funny.
Okay, so now I just need to get back to that screen so that I can see if there's any comments. I don't know how people do it so that it's actually, and maybe it isn't any quicker. Maybe it just seems like it's quicker because I'm on the other side watching.
Yeah.
But it seems to take so long for the screens to come up. I'm like, come on, I want to see.
When you try to do something all the time too, it's like you're the one controlling it, eh? It seems slower.
Well, and I'm on the other side watching. Oh, mute. Oh, and it seems to take so long for the screens to come up. There we go. And patience is not my virtue. So, and I can honestly say that is something that I'm working on. Patience is not my virtue. Okay, so we are on live. We can actually and I can see comments now. So yay! So awesome. I want to welcome everybody to Monday Whispers, and so Monday Whispers is where where through Bridging the Gap we actually bring inspiring women to us to be able to share and share their experiences, share their knowledge, share their talent. And so today we actually have Meaghan Henderson. And so Meaghan is actually going to share today about, her topic is finding my happy. So really excited to be able to have Meaghan here. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Gigado Meaghan Quay, which stands for Talking Feather Woman, and that is my spirit name, and my earth name is Rolia Lair, and I am excited to be able to have Meaghan here with us today. Hi,
Thanks for having me. I was so honored when you asked me to do this, so thank you so much.
Well, you are, and like I said, it's about being able to bring inspiring women into our communities and being able to share, and you are truly inspiring. So do you want to start with maybe telling us a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Okay, so I live in Iroquois Falls, Ontario, but I'm not originally from there. I'm from down south, but I had come up here about it'll be 5 years in March, in order to pursue a job. So I'm actually a registered dietitian, and I came up here at that point to pursue that job. But I'm actually, so I worked in the hospital system for that about 4.5 years, and it ended up being that it wasn't for me anymore. I started kind of getting the nudge that I wanted to leave. There's other things that I wanted to do. And I don't, I'm not 100% sure what exactly was the driving factor behind that, but it was just always something that was saying, like, I want you to do something else. And so I quit my job just recently this past May, with not much of a plan really. Like I have a few side businesses that I've got on the go right now, and I didn't really have any money saved. Like it wasn't something I didn't have anything really lined up. I just knew that it wasn't good for me anymore. I really wasn't happy mentally anymore, and was causing a lot of anxiety and even a bit of depressive moments as well too. And so I quit. And I've been working from home since May, and it literally has been the best decision I've ever made in my life, and no regrets. And so I'm like really passionate about talking about these kind of things, because living in kind of that reality of just really being unhappy is something that I don't think that we need to do or that we should be doing in our lives. I really am just passionate about like letting people know that there are other options, and even though it can be really freaking scary sometimes, that you can make it happen. So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
That's awesome. So so I met Meaghan when we did the women's conference in North Bay last year. And so it was Women Inspiring Women was the theme of the conference, and Meaghan was actually there as one of our vendors. And so yeah. I didn't realize, because when the vendors had actually agreed to hop on, I didn't realize that she came all the way to North Bay from Iroquois Falls. It was like, oh my gosh, really? You drove all the way from Iroquois Falls for this vendor show? And so it was amazing. And so, so I was really grateful to have met Meaghan, and then I started following Meaghan, and like I said, like Meaghan said, I invited her to be able to come and speak because her messaging is amazing. So I've actually tagged her Facebook page. So you guys are welcome to like join her Facebook page and get some, and you guys get to follow her as well. She really, truly is amazing. So, so can you tell me a little bit about what is it that you're doing now? So like you quit your job, you weren't happy. What are you doing?
Yeah. So I'd started in December, actually working for, I love direct sales. I just think direct sales is such a good bridge for somebody who like knows that they want to be an entrepreneur, but they aren't necessarily ready to step out into something that's like fully themselves. I don't know if that makes sense, but like a business based around personally what they do. Yeah. So I sell for Signature Home Styles, which is home decor, which is what I had brought to the conference actually. Yeah. And so I started that in December, and it's been going really, really well. And actually just this past July, I've had a lot of success in that business. And they even invited me to speak on stage and to share my story. And I was winning awards, and it was just this crazy weekend of you know, taking things off my bucket list. And you really don't know what's going to happen, right, when you make these decisions. So that's one of the things that I'm doing right now. And I just actually joined a second direct sales business in around clothing. So I get to make people feel good in their homes, because I think it's so important. Like what you have surrounding you really does affect how you feel on the inside. And then what you're wearing too can often affect that as well too. So yeah.
Nice. That's like a really nice combination, right? So home and body, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's really cool. So I didn't realize that because I know that you won the awards and I know that you were invited to speak. I didn't realize that you had only started in December. Like that is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Like I can't believe that. That is like, that's amazing. And so, so what led you to like why did they call you? Why did they contact you to speak? So like, there's obviously a reason why they're like, hey, Meaghan, can you speak on stage? So like, tell me, why did they pick you?
Sure. So I think what had happened there was that I kind of hit the ground running whenever I started this business. It's funny because I didn't even really necessarily know what I was doing. I was just excited and really just passionate. So I started sharing all over Facebook. And I ended up achieving, so when we start in the company, we have these milestones that you can get for sales and for like inviting other people to join the business and all that. And I was the first in the company this year to actually achieve all of that. And so that happened in March. And so that was really just like such an honor. So I think they just wanted me to come on and kind of share how I was able to achieve that and help to inspire other people in the company as well too, to show that it's possible. It's possible to achieve those things.
That's fantastic. Like that is amazing. So like I said, from December until May, like that is like, so is that record breaking? Like, has anybody else ever hit those kind of milestones?
Or
do you
I'm
know?
not sure previous years. I don't know, actually. They hadn't have shared that. So I know, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it was fast. So they were I felt like a little bit of a celebrity that weekend. It was so like incredibly surreal.
Well, and you were a celebrity, like, so people actually got to look up to you. And like I said, from being able to start off from December until May, like, and being able to achieve all the milestones. So how are you doing with the other business? So like you said, you started.
I just started that recently. Yeah. Like I said, like I love direct sales. I just think that it's a lot of fun, and it's one of those things that allows you to be recognized, and you're helping other people in your community, and so I just started that one actually last week. So it's
this is brand new.
It's brand new, and I think that's one of the things that I kind of think is that I wanted to mention when talking about the finding my happy. I was getting this inkling that this is something that I wanted to do, but my logical brain, as it loves to come in, it was like, no, like why would you do that? Like you've already got this going, it's going to affect this and this and this. And one of the things that I like to do is really sit with these things for a little bit. I meditate quite often and do in the meditation, I'm able to like ask myself these questions because I find otherwise my brain is doing, you know, all these things. And so I sat with it for a little bit and it was like, yeah, no, this is something that I want to do, what I want to do next. And so I kind of just jumped right on it. So we're seeing how it's gonna go.
That's cool. Yeah. So, and again, I didn't realize that it's like just last week that you started. Like this is really perfect timing, right? So like you're coming on and you're actually sharing that. So like just being able to jump in with both feet. So was that not scary? Like
no, that's always
like you were a registered dietitian, so you were making fairly good money, I'm going to assume. So like what was it like? Like what? So tell me.
I had the perfect job, right? I had a perfect pension plan. I had a great income. I had a great job, and I still, you know, am dabbling in that career. I think it really came down to the fact that the 9-to-5 thing just doesn't work for me. I really, you know, want to be an entrepreneur, and I think one of my core beliefs really is that I don't believe that we should have to, unless you love your job. This is everybody has different things that they like, but I at the core of me really believe that if you're not enjoying what you're doing, it doesn't make sense to get up, you know, every single morning, go work for most of the day, come home and have a little bit of time to do whatever to eat, maybe have some time with your family, go to sleep, and you're just doing that most days of the year, most days of the week for like most years of your life. And it's just at the core of my being, it just didn't fit with me anymore. And so, yeah, it was incredibly scary and probably one of the most scary things I've ever done in my life. And it probably took me about 2 years to make that decision because I was, you know, petrified. I was petrified and left. And, you know, people around me, I'm sure, thought I was crazy for making this decision, but I knew no one was going to let me go homeless, and I knew that, you know, I wasn't going to go hungry. And because fear is just fear of dying, and I knew I wasn't going to die. So and it's been since May, and I haven't had to ask anyone for money. I've made it work. Like it's just, and I'm 1,000 times happier. So, you know, I really think sometimes those things that you're really scared of are the things you're supposed to do.
That's like really cool. Like that's most people, including me, wouldn't just jump in both feet, not having any other plan, any other. So I am in business with Bridging the Gap, but I have my husband that I can actually fall back on. He is able to help me as I grow and as I expand and as I shift and change. And so, and in the last few years, Bridging the Gap Wellness has shifted and has changed. And as I figure out how it becomes more me, like how it becomes more of who I am. And here you are, like just jumping, like that is just, I can't believe that is something that you were able to do. Like that is just so inspiring and so terrifying at the same time. So, yeah. So one of the things
very terrifying.
I can imagine. So one of the things that so one of the questions that I have is, so I watch your lives and I catch you as often as I can. And sometimes I actually go back on the replays because I want to be able to catch what it is that you've said. So long as I get the notifications. So where do you get your topics from? Because your topics are just so on point with where most of the people that I talk to are at. So how do you come up with your topics?
I would say, because we haven't even touched on this yet, but I would say that personal development is like my passion. It is like what I literally, and you know, I've had people say to me before, and myself included, I didn't know for the longest time, like what's my passion. And I had an aha moment at one point because I realized it was what I think about literally all day long. And so it just comes naturally to me. Like I read a lot. I have a routine every morning where I read every morning to kind of set my day in a good space. And I've done a lot of work really to get from being a very anxious person and really like unhappy person to getting where I am today. So it's I think about it a lot. I read a lot. I study things in like everything personal development. I watch YouTube videos. So yeah, years and years and years of this really. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My plan eventually is to move into that field, is to probably do some sort of, but as you said, and this is what I love about being an entrepreneur, and you get to do like the things that you want to do, and you get to mold it into who you are, like you said.
Yep.
Become more who you are. And I love that. I think it's so cool.
Well, and it's just so important if we're going to be in business for ourselves, is that we need to figure out who is it that we want to be and how is it that we want to be. And for those of people who actually know me, so like Flora is actually on like right now and watching our live right now, and how I've actually been able to step in is like I had to work through those that fear of like, what are people going to think if I start doing more of this? What are people going to think if I am going off in this direction? What are people going to think? And so, and am I going to be okay? Am I going to be successful? And like I said, I have my husband to fall back on in terms of the financial aspect. So I don't know where I would be if I wouldn't have had that opportunity. I don't know whether or not I would have actually not stepped into that fear. So that is, so that's amazing. So tell me, so what else is it that you would like to let people know?
I think I'm going to bring it back to the finding my happy topic again, because like that fear held me back for a really long time. And I think it's, it's there for a reason, and we learn from it, and it's, you grow like a lot, right? I'm sure you can attest from that. And I think if anybody's sitting there and they're just like, I'm not happy with where I am, I know, sometimes like you have that nudge, kind of that like what you're supposed to do. A lot of the times I think it's always there, but you're just scared, and it's about getting past that and getting to the other side. And I think, when I made the decision that it was time to leave, I really did it from a clear-headed space. Like I didn't do it from in the moment, I can't stand this anymore, I need to leave. Like it was really from like a clear-headed, feeling really good and saying, no, like it's time now. And it doesn't mean that I'm leaving behind this career. It doesn't mean that I'm, because I'm still dabbling away at being a dietitian, but I wanted to do other things. And so I'm not leaving that behind. I'm not, all those things that we tell ourselves that are like often not true.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not true all the time, right? Yeah. It's just these messages that I find that helps too. I don't know if you do that as well too, but sometimes I'll ask myself, I had a coach who said this actually, like, is that true? Is these things that you're telling yourself actually true?
And I do that with my anxiety group. So that's one of the things that in as part of our process is that when we're actually doing the teachings is asking yourselves. So when you're actually feeling anxious about something, is that true? Really, like how true is it? What proof do you have that it's actually true? And so it's just really interesting that those are some of the things that how many people, it's interesting how many people of this affects. And it's interesting how many people worry about whatever it is that other people are going to think. And even the people who you don't think that bothers, it's really interesting to see when they actually approach you and say, oh, yeah, I really resonated with what it is that you said, because I'm like that too. And they're confident and everything is all great. And so it's just fabulous. And yeah, so.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think with getting the past what people think too, like I still struggle with that. I think it's like probably human nature in some ways, but like I've learned through everything that I've read and all that a lot of when people are like triggered by you, and I'm sure people have heard this before. They say like it's not you, it's them, right?
Yeah.
Like you've heard that on like if you're in the the personal development world, like you hear that all the time and it's almost cliche, but like it's very true. And like you can't take that, you know. And I think that's another thing to touch on, is that if you're like living your best life and you're putting all yourself out there and you're having a blast, like it's really hard to beat yourself up for something that if someone comes after you and is unhappy with something that you're doing, like you're able to have more confidence in a way and say like, no, like this is my, you know, I'm doing me and I'm happy. Yeah. Oh, she left.
Hi, can you hear me and see me?
I can.
I cannot get back on my computer. It's just went completely black and it's not letting me back in. So I've got back in, so it's and it won't let me back into Zoom, and I'm like, maybe it'll let me do it on my phone. I'm like, oh no.
Oh no. Did we just lose the whole video?
No, it still says that we're still live on video on Facebook. So that's why, because you're actually connected as a host. So
perfect. Everybody would see me fiddling away on my phone there. That's hilarious.
So this experience has been really interesting for me in terms of these interviews. So I've had interviews where things where we had trouble getting connected, where there was a few glitches, where we weren't able to start on time, where and it's like, and I just keep going. I don't care. I'm just going to keep going. And so it's like it needs to, as it needs to. And so the couple of them that we couldn't get it to connect to the Facebook. And so we recorded it and then I uploaded it. And so, and today it's like, you just lost me. And you just kept
Oh, that's too funny. I think I wasn't like picking my nose or anything while you were gone. I was like, I don't know if I'm still live.
It still says live on Facebook. So as far as I know, we're still live.
Sounds good.
So I remember, it just distracted me so much. I don't even remember what the question was.
No, me neither. I don't know. I'm not sure where we are.
I think you were talking about finding my happy and just kind of going with the flow and just allowing things to happen. And this is a prime example, right? So this is a prime example of shit happens and life throws us whatever. And my type A personality would have thrown me through a loop going like, oh my God, I'm not going back on there. I'm never doing these lives ever again. And it's just not going to happen. And like, people are going to think that I'm crazy. And honestly, if they think that I'm crazy, I don't care. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying being able to connect with other women. So I'm the,
true.
the only problem with right this second is I have no idea if anybody's making any comments. So if you are commenting, then Meaghan or I will come back and respond. So we will be more than happy to come back and have a chat with you offline.
We're going with the flow. It goes, like, you just touched on that. I'm going to expand a little bit on that as well too, because it's so true. Like, you can't, that's the thing, like, you can't control what's going to happen. And like, whenever you're doing a big scary decision, a lot of us will think like all the worst case scenarios, but don't allow ourselves to think the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Like, at all. It's always like, this could go bad and this can go bad and this is going to happen and this is going to happen, which like A, isn't true. You don't even know that. And B, like, you're going to think that way. Why don't you just think the other way where it could actually go really, really well?
Yeah. And one of the things is that I'm actually writing an article right now on for the Women in Business club and women-owned business club. And so one of the things that I'm actually writing the article about is all about anxiety, right? So a lot of times people will actually talk about being able to shift your mindset. Some of it has to do with mindset, but some of it is that underlying anxiety that you've talked about, right? So it's like that fear and that anxiety. And some of it is just shifting your mindset, but a lot of it is, if you actually are suffering from anxiety, it's being able to catch those thoughts that you were talking about, right? Those automatic thoughts of like, how detrimental, like how horrible is this going to be? How horrifying is this going to be? If I do that, like, here are all the worst case scenarios that are going to happen. And that's more than mindset. That is anxiety. And so that is, and so those are some of the things that are like really, really important for us to be able to recognize. And more people are suffering from anxiety, and kids are at a very young age suffering from extreme anxiety, and the schools and the teachers talk about it all the time. And when I worked in mental health for agencies, and I would actually go into the school, 90% of the kids that I would actually work with was to do with anxiety. They were struggling with anxiety. And I don't even think that, like, I'm guessing at the 90%, but I don't think that that's even an irrelevant number. I really honestly believe that that's probably a really good number of where some of the kids have actually struggled with their anxiety and that was going on. And so it's something that's like really important for us to be able to recognize, right? So being able to recognize those automatic thoughts, being able to notice that these are some of the things that are going on, and being able to be okay with where it's at. So and being able to jump in despite your fear, right? So
and I think too, I shouldn't minimize like the way I talk now is very, very different than the way I talked even 6 months ago, even a year ago. Like, it's been a long process. It's been going to therapy. It's like doing the work. It's doing the, and when I say work, I mean like you said, catching the thoughts. And I think awareness is probably one of the first things. And then having a really strong desire to get better is a big part of it as well too. Like, I'm not a mental health professional at all. So I speak just from my experience really, but like, it's not something that happens overnight. That is for sure. That's for sure.
It hasn't, right? So like, even like you said, it hasn't. It was 2 years in the making before you finally decided to take that plunge. Even though you didn't have a plan, it still took you 2 years to be able to like jump in at it. And we don't need to be mental health professionals to be able to know or recognize some of the emotions and stuff that are going on, to know that we're not happy in whatever it is that we're doing, whatever it is that looks like, or however it is that looks like. And so, and being stuck in unhappiness is something that we can change. We can change whether or not we want to be happy, or we can, like, there's obviously a lot of work that needs to be done, and people need to be ready to do the work. And so clients who I've seen the most success are the clients that I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live like this, and I want change in my life. And the ones that are looking for the magic one are the ones that don't have that same success. And then they project out to everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So it's their fault, and it's their fault, and it's your fault, and you should have, and they should have, and everybody has wronged me. But if they actually take responsibility for the things that they actually need to do in their own lives, it makes a huge difference. And we're all guilty, right? We are all guilty of like, oh, it's not my fault, right? Yep. So I by no means am no different than anyone else. I still fall into that trap, and I still fall into that part of things. And and it's important for us to be able to recognize that whatever emotions that need to come up as well, whether they're positive or negative, right? Yeah. So a few weeks ago, that was one of the things that I had actually shared on a post, was that I had somebody who, I was talking to somebody about something that I was really angry about and really frustrated about. And the person said, "Oh, is that your chakras talking?" And I know that she wasn't being sarcastic, and she didn't mean that in any kind of dismissive way. But then so then immediately I got defensive and went, oh, maybe I shouldn't be talking like this. Maybe I really should be just happy about it and like being okay with it and being able to let it go. And it's like, but in order for me to be able to do that, I need to process it.
Yeah.
I need to process that emotion. And if I don't process the fact that I am angry with the situation, I am angry at the person, I am angry at how this has actually turned out, and I'm entitled to be angry. Now, if I stay stuck in it and start just blaming everybody and everyone else, instead of taking ownership on my part in it, regardless of whether or not I'm the one that did it or not, I still played a role in that situation. And so how I'm reacting to it, so I'm allowed to be angry, but I also have to take responsibility in order to be able to let it go. And sometimes people don't do that, right? So
I think everything you just said is like the epitome of my whole journey and how like I was able to get to this place, because it's so true. Like the first step, probably is awareness, but then you also have to realize that like your emotions are yours, like you said, and they're yours to have control over. And when you're being controlled by your emotions instead of being the one in control of your emotions, then like you don't really have control over your life. And it's a very human like thing. And I think too, like another thing I wanted to add was that you always have the option in and there's a difference. I think you have the option, like I'm going to use the example of my job. I could have stayed and continued, because I did a lot of work for a long time to just try and be happy where I was, because that's one thing I believe, it's either like change your feeling around it or change. And I think there's a difference between just saying no to everything that you're unhappy about and knowing when it's time to take another step. There's a difference, I think, because you can either change how you're feeling in a situation or you can take action. But like you said, if you're getting stuck there, then that's where people run into problems, I think.
Yeah. And the other thing that you had said earlier on is being able to tap into that intuition. And so that intuition, so when I was actually working with young girls, that was one of the things. So like when I was working with young girls in the schools, and that was one of the things that I would actually teach them, is that it's really, really important that if you've got a gut feeling, regardless of what anybody else thinks, if you have a gut feeling about someone or something, then trust that instinct, because that instinct is what needs to protect you. And so it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And so the example that I would use is that if you guys are in a situation where this creepy looking guy is coming up and you're getting that icky, yucky feeling, then trust it. Or if that really handsome, amazing looking guy is coming and you're getting that icky, yucky feeling, then you need to trust it. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what their status is. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, because if you're picking up that vibe, it is a vibe for you. So maybe they will never do anything, who knows, but still trust, right? Still trust that instinct is really important, because if we start doubting our own instincts, then we then continue to struggle, right?
Who are you going to trust? Like you're always going to be searching for people outside of yourself for answers. Yeah. And I do, because I'm very much a science brain, right? Because of, my work as a dietitian, there are studies behind like gut feeling and intuition that and I'm not gonna be able to quote it because I can never remember how it works exactly, but where they've done like had stimulus coming up and they've been able to show that like the intuition or I think it was in the gut actually was able to pick up on that like seconds or milliseconds before it actually happened. So like there is science behind it for anybody who's kind of like, oh, intuition, because it sounds sometimes like, right? But it's very valid. It's very, very true. And if you learn to trust it, like weird things will start to happen in your life.
And it's really interesting because like that's one of the other things is that I'm doing I'm preparing for a workshop with someone else, and we're actually working on emotional release. And so one of the things because I'm gathering information and getting information from different places, and even though I already know this, but it's like making sure that I have like all the facts straight because of that left brain part of things, right? So, but making sure that I have all these facts straight. And one of the things that I actually came across and that I already knew, but I actually came across some of the studies that have to do with it, is that that our emotions actually reside in our DNA. Like they actually build into our DNA. And so when that anxiety is kicking in, where is it in our body? Because it actually is going in at a cellular level to that part of your body. And again, like that was all like way back when, that was all woo-woo stuff, right? Like, oh, that's just all crazy. And there's like, but now they actually have science that actually is showing where it actually is happening in your DNA, where it is actually more, so anger resides in your liver. And that has been something I have known forever and ever and ever. But it's like when I'm actually going through and reading through the articles and stuff, and it's like it actually, and this particular article actually talks about how it is actually, how it actually festers. And so when they actually do the DNA scans, like I don't know the scientific part of things, but like when they do the DNA scans, they can actually see where somebody has actually been more angry in their life, where it actually is more perpetuating. And so when we don't, and what they say, the scientists have said, is that if we don't deal with the emotions and we don't get to be able to release it and learn how to be able to release it, then that's where cancers start to form. And that is like where, so when they actually tap into the DNA, that's where the biggest part of things are. And so, and if you actually look at the different body parts and different things about somebody that has liver cancer, somebody who has lung cancer, and if you actually go back and Louise Hay is another one who actually talked about healing your body, healing yourself through that emotional release stuff. And I don't know whether or not she had any studies, but like that was something that she's very much known for. And so, but like if you actually go back and pull out her books, and she actually talks about like, so if your lungs are bothering you, or if it's your leg that's bothering you, then take a look at the emotional connection between those body parts, right? There's another author too, and I can't remember what her name is, but there's another author that has the same concept as Louise Hay as well, and Louise Hayes as well. So it's really interesting. And now we've got science that's backing this stuff up, right? So 18 years in mental health, and that was one of the things that we would tell people things, but we didn't have the studies behind it. We had the psychiatric studies behind it, but we didn't have the scientific background. And people would say, oh no, that's just hogwash, right? So like that's just crazy talk, because like they're the crazy people doctors, right? So it's right. Like, no, there really is science behind it. There really is that information that's going on behind. So.
I find it so fascinating, because all these, the more I dig into this, like you could, my goodness, I'm sure you can dig into this stuff, you just get lost in it. But it is, I don't remember what I was going to say. But it is, I think it is, oh yeah, like everything you've heard, like it, and that's so cliche in the self-development, like kind of spiritual, like world. Yeah. It's all things you've heard before, but now it's like, oh, okay, so this is where this is coming from, and now science is showing that's true. And it's very interesting. You can go so deep into this stuff.
A lot of things are actually revolving back to like way back when, right? So like the workshop that I'm doing has to do with essential oils and emotional release. And so like if you actually look back at the ancient Egyptian times, like that's what they used, was essential oil to help them deal with a lot of things. And so one of the things that, again, while I'm actually trying to gather information, one of the things that I found out was that that in ancient times, what they used to do in ancient Egypt times is they actually used to join, or that they actually used to get the essential oils, and when they were actually in, like, so in there, I don't know, like the different places and the different chambers that they were in, but they actually would write it down what the results were of the emotional release that they were actually doing. So if they were dealing with sadness or anger or whatever, or if they were trying to increase joy, apparently they actually wrote down what their findings were when they actually used the essential oil. So it's like really cool. So it's just really, really neat. And I want to learn more about the Egyptian part of things, and because like they have like so much information in terms of health and how they would actually handle things and deal with things. And so like I think it's myrrh. It's either myrrh or frankincense that they actually used to use to embalm their bodies. Like that's where the mummies come from, where they actually still are not completely disintegrated. It's because of the essential oils that they actually used. But I can't remember if it's frankincense or myrrh, but it's one of those two that they actually used to actually embalm their bodies to be able to keep them from disintegrating, especially in that heat, right? So,
and it worked. It's so crazy, eh? Like that ancient knowledge that a lot of times we just kind of are like, oh, that seems strange, but then you hear these things later on, and it's like, oh, well, that was true all along, right?
That, right? So, and that's one of the things that I'm finding in the wellness field, is that I'm seeing a lot of people that are actually kind of shifting back to some of those old beliefs and those old, and wanting to know more about how to be able to do these things, and wanting to be more natural and finding all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I think too, it's so important. Like if it's working for you, I used to say this as a dietitian a lot too. Like if you're finding something that's working well for you and you're feeling good about it, then that's like so important. Like follow that. To keep doing the things that are working for you and that make you feel good, because that's the whole purpose, right? That's why you do things. You want to feel good.
And that's working for you, right? Because that's one of the things, and what's working for you, and it's you're keeping it happy, that it's keeping you happy. Because, and sometimes people will just keep doing what's working for them, but they're still staying in that whole negative, that same negative pattern. So the other key part of it is if it's working for you and you're happy with it.
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I could talk to you for hours.
So is there anything else that you want to share with our audience?
Nothing's coming to mind. I think I've pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with your followers.
Well, fun. And thank you so much for just being part of that that resilience, and just being online as I'm texting you, trying to find out, like, are you still there? Because my screen's gone. So my screen went black and then it's back on again, but it wouldn't let me reconnect back to Zoom. And I'm like, how can I do this on my phone? I've never done webinar on my phone.
So, oh, that's hilarious. Well, it seemed to work out. We're going to go check Facebook now and see if this is working.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Meaghan, for taking the time to be able to come on with us. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your excitement and your joie de vivre. Like, that is so, so important, and people need to be able to see. And like I said, I am amazed that you actually jumped in both feet with no plan. So congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this talk. This was great.
Okay, so I may need you to actually end the meeting because I'm not sure if I can from here. So I will try, but if it doesn't work, and you're still on, then that's I'll need you to do that part.
Well, I can leave. I don't know how to do.
Actually, it's else. So I should be good. Maybe.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.